Good morning, beautiful being. It is lovely to see you here. And it's wet and it's cold and it's the midwinter solstice outside where we are. We just had the longest night. We'll have another longest night tonight. Shortest day, the whole thing, tra-la-la. But here we are inside and it's sort of pretending to be day out there. We're not nearly as far south as you are north if you're in the UK or in Canada. But it still gets pretty grey and, like that at this time of the year. Good morning, Holly. It's lovely to see you. So I'm inside with the rocks today because there is no way the Wi-Fi would work outside in that mess. And this is the first rock I'm going to show you. This is one I picked up when I was little. Yes, it does have holes through it. It's a piece of New Zealand. It's really groovy, literally. That was an unintended pun, but look at it. I don't know how it gets like this. I guess water wears it over time. I don't know where I found it. Probably in a riverbed somewhere. And yeah, I just love it. Lisa Louise, great to see you, sweetie. Good morning, good evening, happy solstice or unpleasant solstice or blessed solstice or whatever it is you want your solstice to be, because we're all doing it. Shortest day for us, longest day for you if you're on the other side of the planet. And yeah, a holy rock. Ha! Literally. There it is. It's very groovy. I really like this. Picked it up when I was small. This is a little aragonite Sputnik. And, well, for obvious reasons, you can see why it's called a Sputnik. It's because the aragonite crystals all branch out from one central point, just like the Sputnik with all its antennae. And it's very cute. It's not actually my rock. This is one that a friend of ours gave to my husband. And it's so cute, and it put up its hand and said, I want to go on today. So there it is, being very sweet. It's so cute. It's sort of chubby, like a small puppy or a baby or whatever. So there it is. And last but not least, something that is different from my friend Jenny Polo's collection. Now, I've got to read the label on the bottom. The label on the bottom says, this is olmeite on quartz, and then there's NC2 on the bottom, and I don't know where that means it's come from. But let me show you the sparkly quartz part. There's the quartz. It's very sparkly, very, optical, pure, glorious quartz. And then this part, it's kind of all druzy, is the olmeite. And I don't know what olmeite is. I don't know a thing about it, but it volunteered to come and say hello and be something interesting and beautiful for us to look at. So there it is. And I'm enjoying sharing it with you. And there's this odd little protrusion here. I don't know what that is. It's grown on it. G'day, Mike. It's lovely to see you. So, it's a rather wonderful, sparkly, interesting crystal. Olmeite on quartz. So there it is. Now, today, I want to talk about guilt, that word, because one of you mentioned it the other day, and guilt is often a really big thing for people. If it's a big thing, it's a big thing. If it's not a thing, that's great. But guilt is like, it's the worst feeling, really, because whenever you want to say no or you want to say yes or whatever it is, hi, Sanchia, and there's this awful feeling of guilt. What the is that? And more's the point, what do you do about it? And I was thinking about that in the context of someone I know who just made a comment in one of the lives about, well, I feel so guilty choosing me. And I thought, well, what would I say to that that's actually useful? So the thing about feeling guilty choosing yourself is that somewhere along the road, somebody's told you, for whatever reason, that it's better if you choose somebody else. And if you don't, then there's something wrong with you. And for some people, that programming can come from a religious background, because the example is held up of people who have suffered and died for whatever reason, for what they believed in, for others, And, there are big religious things packed around that. And that really, the whole thing of martyrdom can be programmed into us at a very early age. And it's not even conscious that parents or siblings or whatever it is are necessarily processing us to be martyrs. But we get the idea that if we are happy, there's something wrong. And if we're suffering, that's good. Because when we die, we'll go to heaven and everything will be okay then. And by the way, that is pretty much how I used to live. Not because anybody terribly programmed me, but I kind of programmed myself. I was always of the feeling that if I just made it through this difficult thing, there'd be something better on the other side. And it was all tied in with religion, but I didn't understand it. Yeah, I used to be very Christian. Don't take that as a swipe against Christianity. It's just that I changed, and my connection with what I know and feel and experience as the divine did not go away. It's just that for me, all the labels fell off. The experience remained. The pattern, the template, the whatever it is that I encountered through Christianity, that went away. So that's, as much as we need to say about that. So part of that falling away process was actually having a big realization, bugger this, screw living entirely for tomorrow. Yeah, I've changed, Sunshine. You're right, honey. Thank you for acknowledging that, recognizing it. Bugger living for one day, there'll be a reward for me in heaven. Whatever I do has to work for me now. Screw it, And there were no great bolts of lightning out of the sky. My life didn't suddenly turn to shit. So, that was interesting. But we get programmed in various ways. Sometimes as a family completely unreligious, for example, but there's victimization going on. And because when you're young, the brain doesn't have the analytical facility to say, this is crap, I don't want to accept this. No, not true. This person's saying, I'm a bad person, I'm a bad girl, I'm a bad boy, and I don't deserve this, and I'm an awful person. We don't have the facility to disagree with that. And so if we get those messages, either with words or with abusive emotions or abusive experiences, as children, the brain doesn't have the memories and the hardware and the ability to go, that was crap, but it was nothing to do with me. That didn't happen to me because I deserve it. It just happened to me because somebody was in a shitty space and did something shitty to me. It's nothing to do with me. I'm not a bad person. I just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't want to talk any more about that, but you get the idea. The child doesn't have the mental and emotional maturity and architecture to stand back from the experience, never mind that some of those experiences are so traumatic you can't stand back from them anyway, and say, this is not about me. This is about somebody else being in a mess and dumping it on me. So, you grow up, you get an analytical mind, you may intellectually say, well, gee, that was wrong. You may do the court case, you may do all the resolutions and the confrontations and everything else, but in your heart and soul you still feel worthless. Because, and I really am very warm, which is one of the things that's changed, because at an implicit, unconscious, subconscious level, you got that message, and you can't, the 5% of you that now understands that you're talented and you've got skills and you're beautiful and everything else, has no way to get to the 95% of you that is unconscious and subconscious that says, I'm worthless, I'm guilty of everything that people say I am, anything bad that happens to me is because it's my fault, tra-la-la. And so the 5% is trying to live a happy life, and the 95% is saying, you don't deserve that. You are guilty, you are worthless, and everything bad that happens to you is absolutely because it's your fault. And so then when you try to choose something else, never mind what anyone else around you is saying or behaving like or whatever, and by the way, remember, if that's the 95% of you that's here and resonating and unconsciously being you, The people and circumstances, situations, and everything around you is going to be in tune with that. Your 5% of conscious mind can be somewhere else entirely, but the 95% of you is what's manifesting in your life. So you have to change that, and you can't do it with your conscious mind, which is really a bit of a bind to be in. You've got to slow down your brain and get into your operating system and change it there. That's another story. But thinking about that conundrum, thinking about somebody who either doesn't know how to slow down their brain and get into the operating system and change the program that way, or is so stuck in victimhood and guilt and worthlessness that they actually don't realize that they don't even want to, because it would mean changing who they are and their identity, and they're clinging to their identity as a victim or whatever it is because that's all they have. What would I say to that person? So that's where this is coming from now that I've taken half the time. But I think it's important to frame it properly. So to that person, I would say, you know what you don't want. You know what it is to feel unworthy and to feel guilty whenever you want to choose yourself. And it's like, oh no, I can't do that. I don't deserve that. I couldn't have that. I couldn't, tra-la-la-la-la. You really know how to tell yourself that story. Have you even thought about what you really want? Do you even know? Because when someone's that deeply in that whole experience, they've quite often never thought about what they really want because it's not in their awareness to think about what they really want. Because they're so busy saying, I can't have it. They're so busy saying, I'm guilty, I'm worthless, I'm a victim, all this bad shit's happening to me, and they never actually put any attention on what they want in life. And so that's my first thing for someone who's buried in it, is to say, you have to make a massive decision inside yourself to dig yourself out of that shit, and you're going to have to do it willfully. And it's going to feel really, really wrong because you're used to feeling worthless and guilty and everything else, and that's normal for you, and it's really, really easy. And to do something else, you're going to have to say, what the fuck do I actually want? Really? Because you can't say yes to what you want in your life if you don't actually know what it is. That's the first thing, and it seems so basic, but if you've never decided it, if you don't actually know what it is, if you're so busy saying, this is awful, I can't have it, I can't change it, it's been impossible, and everybody hates me and blah, 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 you are never going to get anything else while you focus on what you've had. While you focus on how awful it's been in the past, you are still in the past, and you are going to keep on creating more of the same shit. If you want something else, you've got to stop saying it. For God's sake, stop talking about it. Stop writing about it. Refuse to put that word in writing ever again. If you have to mention it to somebody, unless you're in court or whatever, and you're forced to, that thing that we don't mention. You have to make a really powerful decision in yourself about whether you're going to continue to be that person or not. You have to decide what you want. And you really may not know, but there will be something that you can say, I want this. Okay. Do you want it enough to stop constantly obsessing and worrying and fretting and telling the story and paying attention to all of the stuff you don't want? And that might seem really obvious. Of course I do. But as soon as you stop listening to this live or whatever you're doing and you go back to your life, how long do you give yourself before your brain goes back to the worried thoughts and the fear and the, oh God, that thing that's happening tomorrow and the next day, and oh, it's going to be like this, and oh, I can't have it. And how long is it going to be before your brain goes back to being who you've been and worrying about it and fearing it and feeling angry about it or whatever it is? And at that point, that is when you have to, oh, hold on a minute. I just went back to thinking about, obsessing about, putting my energy in that thing that I said I don't want. Oh, geez. Now, how much do I want something else? Do I want something else enough to put my attention on it? Or am I going to keep saying, oh, I'm so worthless, I'm so unworthy, I can't do it, I'm so guilty, it's wrong for me to have what I want in life, all of which can actually become, I've got to be careful saying this with compassion, a reason to not change. It becomes our defense to stay where we are. Say, oh, I'm not worthy, At that point, when you notice yourself thinking the same defeated thoughts again, or whatever it is, the same guilty thoughts, the same angry thoughts, the same unloved thoughts, whatever, we just started talking about guilt, but it's all the same. Are you willing at that point, when you are running that circuit again and feeling those feelings again, to yank yourself out of that thought and say, hold on a minute, this is the thing I wanted. Let me think about that now. And you might manage to think about that for 5 seconds before your brain goes back to the thing that it's been thinking about and worrying about for 30 years. And when you notice that after the next minute, you're then faced with another huge choice. Oh shit, I'm back here again. Oh, what was it? What was that thing that I wanted to feel worthy of, that I wanted to imagine having it happen in my life, and it seems so impossible. It's so easy to just go back to saying, oh God, no, forget it, it's never going to happen, it's, I can't change, it's impossible, How much do I want a different future? Because this is so easy and it's so familiar, and you can do it ad infinitum, and you can stay there and you can wish for something else. But if you want something else, you got to stop wishing. You have to catch yourself being that person that you've been for long enough to create the stuff you're in, and you have to make a choice to be somebody else. And the rough news is you're going to have to do it again and 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 again. And you're going to have to do it until you're sick of it. You're going to do it until your head feels like it's going to explode. Because you're so used to being this. And if you want to be that, this is a habit. It's beyond a habit. It's like an obsession. And it's hard to break obsessions. I know. I've done it myself. Sandy, hello, sweetie. It comes up from time to time that I find myself in a really potently powerful state of being, thought, feeling, whatever it is, and to shift myself out of it is so fucking hard. But I love myself enough to do it and to feel like I'm losing my mind sometimes because it's so hard. And because I have to do it over and 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 again. Because I want this more than I want this. And believe me, my body and the 95% of me that's unconscious really wants this. And the 5% of me that has the ability to make a new choice has to be greater than all of that. And that is the war. So to overcome your guilt, you've got to know what you want to feel worthy to receive. And have some idea that eventually one day you might feel good about receiving it. Forget about, more than that maybe. And at least then you can become more conscious of what you are choosing. You have to pay attention enough to realize, geez, because I felt worthless, because I felt low, because I felt whatever. G'day, Jen! I made all these crappy choices because I was being this person over here. And that was just the only thing I felt I could have. I was settling for, and I was being small, and I was, all of that stuff. And don't beat yourself up about it. But if you pay attention, what have I been choosing? I really want this. But what have I been choosing? Really, what have I been choosing? Because by contrast, if you know what you've been choosing, then the next time you're faced with the choice, either in your mind or in quote unquote real life, and real life is really in here. What's out here is what you manifest from in here. You are going to be clearer about whether you're going, oh shit, here I am at the watershed. This person expects me to go, oh yes. I'll do that again. Oh, man. Do I want that? Really? And it's another huge choice every time. Every time you notice that you're at a fork in the road. G'day, Andrew! About whether I carry on being my old, disempowered, guilt-ridden self, or I say, no, I won't do that anymore. God, it's scary and hard to choose me. But if you know what you don't want to choose and you know what you do want to choose, you can at least be more conscious about it. And by the way, this doesn't mean blowing your life to pieces and pulling it apart and suddenly becoming this huge rebel and making a great mess. Louise, it's you. Just couldn't remember your name, honey. The angel wings, I know it's the angel lady. Louise. It doesn't mean destroying your life and suddenly making a whole lot of choices and, blowing people off who've been victimizing you maybe for however long. It does mean becoming more aware of the choices you're making and then thinking, well, how can I make a better choice for myself right now that doesn't completely blow my life apart, that at least I know I'm making a choice, that it's a step in the right direction for me, And you get stronger as you become more aware and you're making more choices about what's right for you. And sometimes, by the way, that means actually saying, I'm going to do exactly what I've always done because right now it's not appropriate for me to change it. I'm not prepared to change it. I'm really not. But I'm now conscious that I'm making that choice to fold or to give in or to whatever it is. And that in itself is different because you're making the choice consciously instead of unconsciously. Instead of saying, oh, well, I'm this victimized, guilty, worthless, whatever person, you're saying, okay, I recognize that isn't right for me, but right now I don't even know who the self is that would choose something else. I'm going to do this, but I'm doing it with a conscious awareness that's what I'm choosing to do. That's different from just going, So it's a massive choice. If you've been in that space for a long time, make no mistake, you are going into a wrestling match with yourself. Anybody, any one of us who wants to change something that's deeply ingrained is basically doing the same thing. You have to know what you don't want, you have to know what you do want, and you have to be paying enough attention to notice when you've gone back to your past. And then you have to love yourself, which can in itself be very difficult to do if you're programmed to feel like you're worthy of none of that. You have to love yourself enough to love yourself to make a different choice. And only you can do that. And if you do, you're going to find that you are going to respect yourself a whole lot because suddenly there is a will in you that's chosen you. And that's how you really learn to love yourself. That's how you get out of guilt. That's how you get out of any limiting experience emotion. Never mind all the things that make it happen faster. That's something anyone can do if they want it enough. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying that's how it works. Very much love. Thank you so much for joining with me. It's lovely to have you come and be with me. I appreciate you. Big love. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.